The objective today is to manipulate files and folders using Google Drive. So the table of contents is really simple. First, I'll tell you why we're doing this lesson. Then we'll go over the tasks you'll have to complete using Google Docs right here. And then all that's left is just doing the work of learning. Sometimes to learn a new skill, you just have to go through the action of using that skill. So today is just one of those checklist item days. This is just something everyone who uses a computer should know. And I'm going to use Google Drive because it's easy to check your work for me as your teacher, just to make sure you've completed the objective. But the interfaces we'll work with using Google Drive will be very similar to all other systems, so you'll use those same basic procedures to manipulate files and folders. So here's our not the table of contents, just the checklist that we're working from. So we should be able to describe potential security threats to computers and identify protection methods. So with the context of files and folders in mind in terms of what is vulnerable about them. The next thing we'll do is we'll create, modify, and organize files and folders. Then we'll organize and manipulate file names, locations, and backups. Next, we're going to develop some search techniques for locating information on the web. So we're going to do that in the context of trying to figure out how to do things in order to manipulate the files and folders. Of course, while we're doing that, we'll need to evaluate the search results we're getting. Then we're going to report back on all these things by creating, editing, and saving a document. We'll skip the print part, but I'll be sure to point out the button that you click in order to print. Then we're going to apply basic formatting to a document. And finally, we'll create, insert, and modify graphics and other visual elements, well, pictures and charts. That's pretty much it. We'll be putting that into some of our work. So step one, we're going to think about security. So in the back of your mind, as we begin, think about how everything we create today is at risk of being either stolen and then possibly used in a ransomware scheme, or destroyed. So there's trolls out there. They might just want to destroy your stuff. They just like to watch the world burn for some sick reason. Or your files and folders could be manipulated, which I'm calling just pure evil here. You could think of it in a teacher's perspective where I have a file or a folder where I keep students' grades. Wouldn't it be nice for some students to be able to just manipulate that folder and change their grade to whatever it is that they think they should get? So as we go through the lesson, just keep this security in mind, and at the end of the lesson, I'll just ask you to do this. I'll ask you to describe the potential security threats to computers and then identify protection methods, which of course we'll go over. So what we're doing is essentially narrating the skills, the things needed in order to do all those things on the checklist. As I work through how to do this stuff, you're basically narrating what I am doing and proving it through your Think Right shares. That way I know you're with me. And then for the DOL itself at the very end, you're just sharing your Google Drive so I can see that all your stuff is unique. Speaking of narrating, Rosario Dawson is a great narrator, at least if you're a fan of Audible, if you have that program. She narrated a book called Artemis by Andy Weir, same guy who did The Martian, you could see there. And I would say hands down she is the greatest audiobook narrator I have heard, and I've listened to quite a few of them. So if you're looking for a book suggestion, definitely check out that Artemis. Okay, so let's get back on topic. The first thing, you're going to essentially answer the question, how do you create, modify, and organize files? Then how do you do this, and how do you do that, and how do you do this? These things on the checklist will be done by you sharing the folder with me, okay? And then these things actually, I threw them down here just so you're aware. You have already done some of these things, but with tables and charts through Excel. You've created an Excel document using a template. That's our lesson when we looked at a way to manage your finances as an adult. So that was like a budget lesson where you were doing those things. So what we're doing is just looking more specifically at text documents, and that's it. So it's just not a big deal. And I hope you even more. Here's an example of what I'm looking for. So number one asks you, how do you create, modify, and organize files and folders? Well, for example, you could say, to create a new document, click File, then New, and then Document. To save it in a particular folder, right-click or click Move to, and then select the folder. Here's another example. How do you organize and manipulate file names, locations, and backups? You could write something like, you should organize files by ideas. Anything that shares a similar concept should go together, for the most part. For example, if you have files for your classes, organize them by class. Or maybe inside of a single class, such as mine, you can organize things by month. And that's actually what we'll be doing for our practice here. If you needed a broader folder or a bigger folder, that way you're not looking at an entire page of folders, you could have one called semester. When you double click it, you'll have semester 1 and semester 2. And when you double click semester 1, you'll have August, September, October, and so on. So here's another example. I'll let you pause it so you can read, but we'll do this near the end of the lesson where we're looking up some information. And my best advice on this would basically be speak like a caveman. So I'll go more into details on that later. And also I already have a lesson on Boolean search strategies, so I won't really cover that today. Another example of how to evaluate search results. So pause here. I'm not going to read this one to you. And let's not do this quite yet because we should now go through the act of manipulating files and folders. So what we want to do here is go to a Google Drive. Pause the video here to give yourself time to get there. Now that you're here, we're going to start by selecting New, and we're going to do Folder up here at the top. Let's call this folder Computer Class. So I've created this folder. I just click it to open. So right now, it's completely empty. This is key, okay? So it says I have a folder inside of my drive. I have to be here in order to put documents in, so let me put my first document. Now what do we do often in class? Well, at least every month we have a month in review essay. And let's call this one August. Google does this cool thing where if you've typed this as a title and maybe underlined it, if you click here, it'll pop up automatically. So you don't have to manipulate the file name from here. But just to show you how to do that, let's say I'm going to call this August essay just to make it shorter. And there you go. So here I have a document where I can write my essay. I could say this month in class. Uh-oh, it's starting to underline. So to fix that, just highlight, click underline, and it's gone. So this month in class, I learned many things. And let's say in this essay, I want to separate these ideas by big ideas. So in most of my classes, we learn quite a bit about binary in the beginning. And then hexadecimal is a very fun lesson. And then we do these Flash Talk Fridays where we go over new innovations. So Friday Innovation is what I'm going to call this category. So let's say these are headings that I want to use for every paragraph. So right now at this moment, you don't have to actually type the essay. So let's just go blah, blah, and I will highlight those two, Control C to copy, and I'll just do that a lot. Then I'll go down here and do that a lot, down here. Pretend these are paragraphs, okay? What I want to show you in this moment is how to highlight something to make a subtitle, or really just to teach you how to format text. So let's say I want to change color. I'm going to make that one red, and this one blue, and this one green. So to get points on today's DOL, all you're doing is changing the color to 3 possible subtitles. Try to be creative and unique and come up with your own, or, I mean, if you just want to prove to me you can do this, go ahead and copy these words, but change the color. Okay, I'm really looking for uniqueness here. So, and let's say in the paragraph I wanted to create some bullet points. So let's say here's a few things to make bullet points. I can highlight it and click either 1, 2, 3 like that, or there's the bullet points I like a lot. So 3 things for you to have in this document when you share it with me. You have an underline, you have different colors, you have bullet points, and the last thing we'll do here is different types of alignments. So here's what I mean by alignments. Let's make this in the center, Let's make this one go all the way to the right, and we'll keep this one right where it is, to the left, like a Beyonce song. So I know this looks ridiculous right now, but the point is not to actually use it in practice, but to prove that you know where to click these things. So as we move on in class, you can format your documents to make them look a little bit better. Okay, let's exit out of this. So here we are inside the folder, and there's one document. Well, let's create another document. Click Google Documents, and this could be for your notebook entries. So we'll call it Notebook Entries. Go with a couple blah blah blahs, and that's it. Let's X out of there. There's another document. So we have two. Well, in my class, we basically have these two big things we do. We take notes every day, and then we have an end of the month essay. And any coding we do is done on GitHub or App Lab, and so therefore I pretty much have all the documents I need here. Let's say the month of August, you created a spreadsheet, so here's your budget spreadsheet. My personal budget. And I don't have to do anything, and I just wanted to create the document, so it's sitting here in our folder. There it goes, it popped up. So here I am. I have a computer class folder and 3 documents. Well, I do need to organize myself as the year goes on. So let's create another folder inside of here. So I'm going to click this. There's nothing when I click the down arrow. So let's see if I click New and Folder. Let's call this folder August. And there it is. So this makes sense to put into there. This goes in there. And this goes in there. So I have computer class in an August folder. Let's create a September folder. There's no documents in here, right? So let's change that. Let's fix that. Let's click here. We'll click under August. Pause if I'm going too fast here. Let's right click August essay. Make a copy. So sitting inside this August folder is a copy of the August essay. Let's right click here. Rename. Remember, a lot of the things I'm doing can be done on other platforms. With the Windows file system, you can right click and rename a file as well. So here I'm going to go with September essay. Click OK. So though the information in here is for August, it's titled September. So if I go in here and just delete this, I'm going to change this to September. I'm ready for the next month when I go to type an essay, a new essay, okay? So let me exit out of here. Now what's the problem? We don't want a September essay in the August folder, so let me right click here, move to, and I'm going to choose, no, not September essay, I need to click back. There we go, there's a September folder. And I'm just going to click move. And now it's gone. Let's double check. I'll click computer class. I'll click into September. There's the essay. So let's go back here. Let's create another folder. And this time, instead of clicking over here, I just right-clicked, new folder. What comes after September? There's an October folder. Doing good so far. Now let's take it up a notch. I'm going to right-click and create a folder that says Semester 1. Now I'm going to take this folder and put it in here. Take this in there, this and there. I'll go here, I'll create another folder. This would be Semester 2. There we go. So inside of computer class, I have 2 folders, Semester 1 and Semester 2. And I just keep going down and down into the file directories. So I wanted to make sure I said the word correctly, file directory. So I just typed in the word file directory. And the first thing that pops up here is from a website called Computer Hope. So actually before reading this, Google does a pretty good job at this. But before reading this, I just read the website. Computer Hope, it's a .com, so it's a company website. Title sounds reasonable in terms of their URL or their domain, I mean. It says a directory is a location for storing files on your computer. Directories are found in a hierarchical file system. And it gives some examples of operating systems that use a hierarchical file system. In the picture to the right is an example of the tree command output that shows all the local and subdirectories. So I'm going to click this. And notice this came from How to Geek website, the picture did at least. And this is not information we need right now. This is the information I'm trying to learn about. It says directory C /users, and then it goes and goes and goes. So that's similar to what we're looking at right here. September is inside of semester 1, which is inside of computer class, which is inside of my drive. So let me go back here. Do I feel confident in my understanding of this word, file directory? I do. Now I can go down here and check out some other websites, Wikipedia. Despite a lot of people's protests, Wikipedia is usually pretty reliable. There's Computer Hope again, Geeks for Geeks, Webipedia. So dictionary.cambridge.org, these are reasonable sounding URLs. And I mean, Google does a pretty good job at giving you reliable, good stuff right away. The key is knowing how to search, and that's very difficult to teach in a single lesson. But basically, when I want to do something, I try to type like a caveman. I don't need to say something like, what is a file directory? ? In fact, let's see what pops up when I do that. Almost the exact same thing. Almost in the exact same order. There's the Wikipedia article. This is nice. It has path. So maybe some good advice is when you're searching things online. Here's our checklist item. How do you search for information on the web? Maybe you should switch between the caveman speak like I used, and that's for speed, with full sentences and see if you're getting different things. So there's 2 great strategies for you to use. And if you're a visual learner like me, definitely click on the pictures. So that's a nice way to look at the information I'm trying to understand. Let's go back here. I love just clicking images. When I don't know something, usually if I just Google image the thing, I can get the gist of what that thing is just by looking at 100 pictures, and I can get that understanding in like less than 10 seconds. It's great. A long time ago, I didn't know what Linux is, so I just typed in Linux in Google Images. At first, you might think Linux is the name of a penguin. The penguin is just their symbol. This is basically Linux right here, the command line, like using an operating system that has a command line. And I don't really know how to explain it, but just looking at the pictures gives me a great understanding of the thing. So that takes us to the part where, how do you evaluate your search results? I'm really going off of a lot of gut stuff here, so if you feel like you've succeeded at your task, in my scenario, I needed to understand that word better. I feel I understand the word better by looking at this picture. And there's more too over here that helps. So my search was successful because I feel successful. Now the trick is knowing if you're actually successful. Sometimes I've tried to look up or research information and still walked away with a misunderstanding of it, and that happens. My best advice with that is just the more you know when something is inaccurate. I always tell my students you should read books, you should have a lot of knowledge before even trying to use Wikipedia, or else you'll probably be easily fooled. So here's how you share your folder with me, and then we are done. You're going to click Computer Class up here. You can right click, click Share, and I will give you my email address in class, okay? So to wrap up the lesson, think about all the damage that can be done if somebody has access to all your files. So describe what they would be destroying or manipulating themselves, and then come up with some ideas of how to protect that stuff. And what's left for us to do today? Nothing. Here's our optional connection I like to make at the end. So think of today's lesson and connect it to one of these IB attributes. And just make sure you did that last part where I say to prove you've succeeded, share the entire folder with me. Then I could click through it and see that you have the right hierarchy going on. You have the right folders within the folders in a few of those documents. And as I leave you here in this lesson, I just hope you found these skills useful for your future, because staying organized and being organized is helpful. Think about it. The more you can save your own time, the more time you have for funner things in life.